The sun blazed down on the endless expanse of golden sand, its heat shimmering like a mirage across the battlefield. The air was thick with tension and the acrid smell of scorched earth. A lone human figure stood amidst the chaos, his armor dented and scratched from countless battles. His name was Arlen Voss, a soldier who had seen too much war but carried himself with quiet determination. Arlen's eyes scanned the horizon, where silhouettes of alien warriors moved in disciplined formations. They were unlike any species he'd encountered before, tall, lithe, and radiating an otherworldly elegance that made them seem almost unreal. Their skin shimmered faintly under the sunlight, shifting between hues of silver and deep blue. Their weapons hummed softly, energy cores glowing ominously as they prepared to strike. He tightened his grip on his rifle, sweat dripping down his brow despite the cooling systems built into his suit. He wasn't alone. Behind him, a small squad of humans held their ground, their faces etched with fear and resolve. But this wasn't just another skirmish, it was survival. Suddenly, the advancing aliens halted. From their ranks emerged a woman, or at least what Arlen assumed was female based on her flowing robes and the way she commanded attention without uttering a word. She stepped forward gracefully, her long strides eating up the distance between them. Her hair floated around her head like strands of liquid starlight, and her eyes glowed faintly, a mesmerizing shade of violet. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Arlen felt every nerve in his body tingle, not out of fear, but something else entirely unfamiliar. She stopped mere feet away, her gaze piercing through him as if she could see straight into his soul. Then, in a voice that resonated with both power and warmth, she spoke. "You're strong enough to be my husband," she said, her words laced with an accent that sounded musical yet foreign. Arlen froze. His mind went blank. Had he heard her correctly? Was this some kind of trick? Around him, his comrades exchanged bewildered glances, unsure whether to laugh or prepare for an ambush. The alien woman tilted her head slightly, studying him with curiosity. "Do you not understand?" she asked, her tone softening. "I have chosen you." Chosen him? For what exactly? Marriage? Alliance? Or something far more sinister? Arlen's thoughts raced faster than his heart. Before he could respond, one of his teammates let out a nervous chuckle. Buddy, looks like you've got yourself a fan club," joked Rylan, a scrappy young recruit whose humor often bordered on inappropriate. But Arlen didn't laugh. Instead, he swallowed hard, trying to process the absurdity of the situation. This was no ordinary battlefield proposal. It was surreal, bizarre, and completely unexpected. Yet there was something about her presence that demanded respect, even awe. What do you mean?" Arlen finally managed to stammer, lowering his weapon ever so slightly. Her lips curved into a faint smile, revealing teeth that gleamed like polished pearls. "You possess qualities we value highly," she explained, gesturing vaguely toward him. "Strength, courage, resilience. You are worthy." Worthy? Of being her husband? Arlen couldn't wrap his head around it. He glanced back at his team, hoping someone might offer a clue or at least share in his disbelief. Instead, they all stared at him, wide-eyed and slack-jawed. "Maybe she means husband metaphorically?" whispered Tessa, the squad medic, whose pragmatism usually kept everyone grounded. "Like, a partner in battle or something? Or maybe she just thinks he's cute," muttered Rylan, earning a sharp elbow to the ribs from Tessa. Ignoring their banter, Arlen turned back to the alien woman. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice steadier now. "I am Solara," she replied simply, as though her name should carry weight. And perhaps it did, for when she spoke it, several of the nearby alien soldiers straightened visibly, their expressions turning reverent. Solara continued, "Our people have watched yours for many cycles. We seek unity, not conquest. And among your kind, I found you." She paused, her luminous eyes locking onto his once more. "Will you accept?" Accept what? Arlen's mind reeled. This was insane. Completely and utterly insane. Here he was, standing on a desert battlefield, surrounded by enemies turned potential allies, being propositioned by an alien queen or whatever she was, and expected to give an answer right then and there. I need time to think," he stuttered, taking a cautious step backward. Solara raised an eyebrow, clearly unaccustomed to hesitation. "Time is a luxury we may not afford," she said, her tone sharpening slightly. "Decide quickly, Arlen Voss." How did she know his name? That realization sent a fresh wave of unease coursing through him. Did they monitor them? Study them? What else did they know? Before he could press further, the distant rumble of engines broke the tense silence. Both sides turned toward the sound, watching as a convoy of armored vehicles approached, kicking up clouds of dust. Reinforcements, human reinforcements. Relief washed over Arlen's team, but Solara's expression darkened. "This changes nothing," she declared firmly, stepping closer to Arlen. "Your choice remains. Will you stand with us, or against us?" As the vehicles drew nearer, Arlen realized the gravity of the moment. Whatever decision he made would ripple far beyond this battlefield. It would affect not only his life but potentially the fate of two species. And yet, how could he possibly make such a monumental choice on the spot? "I'll stay here," he said quietly, surprising even himself. Turning to his team, he added, "Go ahead without me. I'll catch up." His squad erupted into protests, voices overlapping in confusion and concern. But Arlen silenced them with a raised hand. "Trust me," he said, his voice firm despite the turmoil inside him. Slowly, reluctantly, they obeyed, boarding the vehicles as they rolled past. Only Tessa lingered for a moment longer, her worried eyes meeting his. "Don't do anything stupid," she warned, before climbing aboard the last truck. When the convoy disappeared over the dunes, leaving only swirling dust in its wake, Arlen turned back to face Solara. She regarded him with an unreadable expression, neither triumphant nor disappointed. "So," he began, forcing a shaky grin. "What happens now?" Now, Arlen found himself walking alongside Solara, her towering form casting a shadow over him as they moved deeper into the alien encampment. The landscape shifted subtly, the barren desert giving way to clusters of sleek, metallic structures that seemed to grow organically from the sand itself. These weren't tents or temporary shelters. They were something far more advanced, shimmering with an iridescence that defied logic. Some pulsed faintly, as if alive, while others emitted low hums that vibrated in his chest. Around them, the alien soldiers moved with purpose, their movements fluid and synchronized. Despite their imposing appearance, none of them paid Arlen much attention, save for a few curious glances. Solara walked with a regal bearing, her every step deliberate, her presence commanding silence from those nearby. Arlen struggled to keep pace, his boots sinking slightly into the soft sand, while she glided effortlessly. "So, he ventured after a while, breaking the awkward silence. "What exactly does husband mean to your people? Because back home it usually involves rings, cake, and a lot less gunfire." Solara glanced at him, her violet eyes twinkling with amusement. "It is a bond of mutual strength and trust," she explained, her voice steady. "Not merely romantic, though such feelings can develop. Among my kind, it signifies alliance, a joining of two souls who complement each other. In choosing you, I offer partnership, not subservience." Arlen nodded slowly, trying to digest her words. "And if I say no?" Her expression hardened, though not unkindly. "Then we part ways. But know this, our offer of unity stands. Should you reject it, humanity loses a chance at peace. My people will not force allegiance, but neither will we tolerate hostility indefinitely." "Great. No pressure at all, then." Arlen resisted the urge to pinch the bridge of his nose. "Right. Got it. Big decision." "No biggie." They reached the largest structure, a dome-like edifice that seemed to breathe faintly, its surface rippling like water. Solara gestured for him to enter, and despite his apprehension, he followed her inside. The interior was breathtaking, a blend of technology and nature that left him momentarily speechless. Bioluminescent plants hung from the ceiling, casting a soft glow over the room, while intricate patterns of light danced across the walls, resembling constellations. At the center stood a circular platform, hovering slightly above the ground, surrounded by holographic displays that flickered with data he couldn't begin to comprehend. "This is our council chamber," Solara said, motioning for him to approach. As he did, several figures materialized around them, not physically present, but projected as lifelike avatars. They resembled Solara, though each had distinct features. One with crystalline skin, another with hair that sparkled like frost, and a third whose eyes glowed a fiery orange. All of them studied Arlen intently, their gazes weighing heavily on him. "Greetings, human." The crystalline-skinned figure spoke first, her voice melodic yet authoritative. "We are the triumvirate leaders of our people. You have been chosen by Commander Solara as a potential ally. Do you understand the significance of this honor?" Arlen swallowed hard. Yeah, I think so. But honestly, I'm still wrapping my head around everything. This is a lot. The fiery-eyed leader chuckled, a sound like crackling embers. Your honesty is refreshing. Few humans would dare speak so freely in our presence. That's because most humans don't end up in situations like this, Arlen muttered under his breath, earning a subtle smirk from Solara. Let us clarify, interjected the frost-haired avatar, her tone gentle but firm. Your species has shown remarkable adaptability and resilience. However, your methods of conflict resolution leave much to be desired. Our offer is not merely personal, it is strategic. By forging a bond with one of us, you become a bridge between our worlds. Together, we can prevent further bloodshed. Arlen rubbed the back of his neck, feeling increasingly overwhelmed. Look, I appreciate the sentiment, really, but I'm just a soldier, not exactly leadership material. Why me? Solara stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. Her touch was cool but not unpleasant, sending a strange sense of calm through him. Because you fight not for glory, but for survival. Because you protect those weaker than yourself. Because, despite your fears, you chose to remain here rather than flee. Her words struck a chord deep within him. He hadn't thought of it that way before. To him, he was just doing his job, following orders, trying to stay alive. But maybe, just maybe, there was more to it than that. Before he could respond, the crystalline leader raised a hand, drawing his attention. Consider carefully, human. While we await your decision, allow us to show you what we offer. Perhaps understanding our world will aid your choice. With that, the holograms dissolved, replaced by vivid images projected throughout the chamber. Arlen watched in awe as scenes unfolded before him. Sprawling cities floating amidst stars, lush forests teeming with alien wildlife, communities working together in harmony. There was beauty here, a sense of unity and purpose that contrasted sharply with the fractured, war-torn existence he knew. But then came darker images. Battles fought, lives lost, civilizations nearly destroyed. Solara's people had faced devastation too, their scars hidden beneath their polished exteriors. They weren't so different from humans after all. As the display faded, Arlen felt a lump rise in his throat. Why show me this? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. To prove we are not monsters, Solara replied softly. We seek coexistence, not domination. But alliances require trust. Trust begins with truth. Arlen nodded slowly, absorbing her words. For the first time since arriving, he felt a flicker of hope. Not certainty, but possibility. Maybe this crazy situation wasn't as hopeless as it seemed. Just as he opened his mouth to speak, a sudden commotion erupted outside. Shouts echoed through the structure, followed by the unmistakable hum of energy weapons charging. Solara's expression darkened instantly, and she turned toward the entrance, her posture rigid. They've come sooner than expected, she murmured, gripping the hilt of a slender blade strapped to her side. Who? Arlen asked, instinctively reaching for his rifle. The dissenters, she replied grimly. Not all of my people agree with this path. Some believe humanity cannot be trusted. Before Arlen could ask anything else, the wall exploded inward, sending shards of glowing material flying. Through the smoke and debris charged a group of armored aliens, their weapons aimed squarely at Solara and him. Solara reacted instantly, shoving Arlen aside as bolts of energy zipped past them. She unsheathed her blade, which ignited with a brilliant blue flame, and lunged at the attackers with precision and grace. Arlen scrambled to his feet, raising his rifle and firing blindly into the chaos. His shots connected, sending one of the assailants sprawling, but there were too many of them. Stay close, Solara shouted, parrying a strike from an enemy's electrified staff. Her movements were a blur, each swing of her blade cutting through the air with lethal accuracy. Arlen ducked and weaved, trying to keep up, but the sheer ferocity of the assault left little room for strategy. One of the attackers broke free from the melee, charging directly at Arlen with a snarl. Instinct took over, he sidestepped at the last second, slamming the butt of his rifle into the alien's midsection. The creature staggered, giving Arlen just enough time to deliver a swift kick to its knee, sending it crashing to the ground. He didn't have time to celebrate, though, as another foe closed in. Through the haze of combat, Arlen caught glimpses of Solara holding her own against multiple opponents. Her blade moved like liquid fire, carving arcs of light that forced her enemies to retreat. Despite her skill, however, even she couldn't hold off the entire group indefinitely. Need a hand? Arlen called out, aiming carefully and taking down another attacker. I require no assistance, she snapped back, though her tone softened slightly as she added, but I won't refuse it. Together, they fought back to back, forming an unlikely but effective duo. Arlen's human clumsiness complemented Solara's alien finesse, their combined efforts gradually turning the tide. When the final attacker fell, both of them were breathing heavily, their bodies slick with sweat, or whatever passed for sweat among her people. Well, Arlen panted, leaning against a shattered pillar, that was fun. Remind me never to visit your planet during family reunions. To his surprise, Solara laughed, a rich, melodic sound that echoed through the ruined chamber. You have spirit, Arlen Voss. Perhaps you are stronger than even I realized. As the dust settled, Arlen couldn't help but feel a strange sense of camaraderie blooming between them. Whether it was born of shared danger or something deeper, he wasn't sure. But one thing was certain. This decision wasn't going to be easy. Much later, after the immediate threat had passed and the wounded were tended to, Arlen found himself seated cross-legged on the smooth floor of Solara's private quarters. The space was surprisingly intimate compared to the grandeur of the council chamber, adorned with simple yet elegant furnishings that reflected her personality. Faintly glowing orbs hovered near the ceiling, casting a warm, soothing light over the room. A tray of exotic fruits and steaming beverages sat between them, untouched for now. So, Arlen began, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. Your people aren't exactly united on this whole peace with humans thing, huh? Solara sighed, her gaze drifting toward the translucent wall that offered a view of the starlit desert outside. No, they are not. Many fear change, cling to old grudges. They see humanity as reckless, destructive. And perhaps they are right to an extent. Arlen frowned, picking at a piece of fruit absent-mindedly. Yeah, well, we've had our fair share of screw-ups. But we're also capable of good, you know? Building, creating, helping each other. I know, Solara interrupted gently, turning back to meet his eyes. That is why I chose you. You embody both sides, the flaws and the potential. It is rare to find such balance. Her words caught him off guard, stirring emotions he wasn't ready to confront. Balance, huh? Feels like I'm just fumbling my way through life most days. And yet you persevere, she countered, her voice unwavering. Even when the odds are stacked against you, even when fear threatens to consume you. Tell me, Arlen, what drives you? What keeps you fighting? The question hung in the air, heavy and probing. Arlen hesitated, unsure how to articulate the jumble of thoughts and feelings swirling inside him. Finally, he shrugged. Survival, I guess. Protecting the people I care about. Making sure tomorrow isn't worse than today. Solara nodded thoughtfully, her expression softening. Noble reasons, yet incomplete. Incomplete? He echoed, raising an eyebrow. Yes. She leaned forward slightly, her violet eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his pulse quicken. There is more to you than duty and obligation. I sense it, a yearning for something greater, a desire to leave a mark, to make a difference. Arlen laughed nervously, scratching the back of his head. You're giving me way too much credit. I'm just a guy trying to get by. No, she insisted, her tone firm but kind. You are more than that. You are capable of greatness, Arlen. But greatness requires courage. Are you willing to embrace it? Her words struck a nerve, stirring memories of battles fought, sacrifices made, and moments of triumph tempered by loss. He had always prided himself on being practical, grounded, realistic. But deep down, buried beneath layers of self-doubt and cynicism, was a spark of ambition, a dream of a better future, however distant or improbable it might seem. I don't know, he admitted quietly, looking down at his hands. This is all so overwhelming. I mean, you're asking me to step into a role I never imagined for myself, to represent an entire species, to bridge two worlds. How am I supposed to live up to that? You do not have to have all the answers now, Solara reassured him, reaching out to place a hand on his arm. Her touch was gentle, grounding. All I ask is that you consider the possibilities. Imagine a future where humanity and my people stand side by side, learning from one another, growing together. Is that not worth striving for? Arlen met her gaze, seeing sincerity and hope shining in her eyes. For a fleeting moment, he allowed himself to picture it. A world without borders, without hatred, where differences were celebrated rather than feared. It was a beautiful vision, albeit fragile and uncertain. "I want to believe it's possible," he said finally, his voice tinged with vulnerability. "But trust doesn't come easy, especially after everything we've been through. Yours isn't the first alien race we've encountered, and not all of them have been friendly." "I understand," Solara replied, her tone somber. "Betrayal leaves scars, wounds that take time to heal. But healing is possible, Arlen. It begins with a single step, a leap of faith." Arlen exhaled slowly, running a hand through his hair. "You really know how to sell a tough pitch, don't you?" She smiled faintly, her lips curving upward in a way that made his heart skip a beat. "Perhaps, but I speak only the truth. Whatever path you choose, I will respect it. Though I hope you will choose wisely." They sat in companionable silence for a while, the weight of the conversation lingering between them. Eventually, Arlen picked up one of the fruits from the tray, examining it curiously. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen, iridescent and pearlescent, with a faint aroma that reminded him of rain-soaked earth. "What's this?" he asked, holding it up for inspection. "A delicacy from my homeworld," Solara explained, her smile widening. "Try it. I think you'll enjoy it." Hesitant but intrigued, Arlen took a small bite. The flavor burst in his mouth, sweet and tangy with undertones of spice. He blinked in surprise, unable to suppress a grin. "Wow, that's incredible." Solara chuckled, clearly pleased by his reaction. "Glad you approve. Consider it a token of goodwill." "Goodwill, huh?" Arlen teased, taking another bite. "Does that mean I get dessert next?" Her laughter filled the room again, lighter and more genuine this time. "Perhaps, if you earn it." For a brief moment, the tension dissipated, replaced by a sense of ease and connection. Arlen realized he hadn't felt this relaxed in years, not since before the wars began. There was something about Solara, her wisdom, her strength, her unwavering belief in him, that made him want to believe in himself too. But as the night wore on and the reality of his predicament returned, Arlen knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Choices loomed large, each carrying consequences that could shape the destinies of countless lives. Yet, for the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of hope, a fragile, flickering flame that refused to be extinguished. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was enough to keep moving forward. The days that followed blurred together in a whirlwind of activity and introspection. Arlen found himself spending more time with Solara, learning about her people's culture, history, and values. She introduced him to their traditions, rituals of light and song that spoke of unity and harmony. Despite the vast differences between their species, there were moments when Arlen felt an unexpected kinship with these aliens, glimpses of shared humanity buried beneath shimmering skin and glowing eyes. One evening, as they walked along the edge of the encampment under a sky painted with twin moons, Solara paused to point out constellations unique to her world. Her voice carried a wistful tone as she described stories passed down through generations. Tales of creation, sacrifice, and resilience. Arlen listened intently, captivated not just by her words, but by the passion behind them. It was clear that this wasn't just diplomacy for her. It was deeply personal. "You miss your home," he observed softly, breaking the quiet rhythm of her storytelling. She glanced at him, surprise flickering across her features before she nodded. "Yes, though I am grateful for my purpose here, there is always a longing for what lies beyond the stars." Arlen hesitated, then asked, "Do you think humans could ever see your world? Or is it too dangerous?" Solara tilted her head thoughtfully, considering his question. "It would depend on whether trust can be forged, not just between us, but between our peoples. There are risks, yes, but also opportunities." He chuckled dryly. "Sounds like everything else in life. Risks and rewards." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Indeed. Tell me, Arlen, have you ever taken a risk that changed your life?" He looked away, his gaze drifting toward the horizon where the desert met the sky. Memories surfaced unbidden, of battles fought, friendships formed, promises made and broken. "Yeah," he admitted after a pause. "More times than I care to count. Some worked out, others didn't." "And yet you continue to take risks," she said, her tone gentle. "Why?" "Because standing still feels worse," he replied honestly. "Even if it means getting hurt or making mistakes, moving forward gives me a chance to fix things, to grow. Staying put? That's giving up." Solara studied him for a long moment, her violet eyes searching his face. "You are braver than you believe, Arlen Voss." Her words lingered in the air, wrapping around him like a warm embrace. For someone who had spent most of his life doubting himself, hearing such affirmation from her felt profound. He realized, perhaps for the first time, how much her faith in him mattered, not because he needed validation, but because it reminded him of his own potential. As the nights turned into weeks, their bond deepened organically. They trained together, strategized together, and occasionally sparred together in mock combat sessions that left them both breathless and laughing. Solara proved to be a formidable opponent, her movements fluid and precise, while Arlen relied on raw instinct and adaptability. Their contrasting styles complemented each other, creating a dynamic partnership neither had anticipated. During one particularly intense session, Arlen managed to land a surprise blow, catching Solara off guard and sending her sprawling onto the sand. Before she could recover, he pinned her down playfully, grinning triumphantly. "Gotcha," he teased, panting slightly. Her expression shifted from mock indignation to something softer, almost tender. "Impressive," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the wind. Their faces were inches apart, close enough for him to see the tiny flecks of silver in her irises. The air between them seemed charged with electricity, heavy with unspoken emotions. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then, slowly, Solara raised a hand to his cheek, her touch cool but achingly gentle. "You surprised me, Arlen," she whispered, "in ways I did not expect." His throat tightened, words failing him as he stared into her luminous eyes. Whatever this connection was, it was growing stronger, weaving itself into the fabric of his being. He wanted to say something meaningful, something that matched the depth of what he was feeling, but all he could manage was a hoarse, "Me too." They stayed like that for a moment longer, suspended in a bubble of intimacy that transcended language and species. Finally, Solara broke the spell, gently pushing him aside and rising to her feet. "Come," she said, brushing sand off her robes. "We should prepare for tomorrow. The council will convene again." Arlen nodded, following her lead though his mind remained clouded with thoughts of what had just transpired, or almost transpired. Was it attraction? Respect? Something more? He didn't have answers, only questions that tugged at the edges of his consciousness. Back inside the council chamber, preparations were underway for a pivotal meeting. Representatives from both factions, those who supported peace and those who opposed it, had gathered, their tension palpable. The dissenters argued vehemently against any form of alliance with humanity, citing past conflicts and perceived weaknesses. Meanwhile, Solara and her allies countered with arguments of hope, emphasizing the benefits of cooperation and mutual growth. Arlen sat quietly in the corner, observing the heated exchanges with a mix of awe and unease. These debates weren't just theoretical. They represented the future of two civilizations hanging precariously in the balance. Every word spoken, every decision made, carried weight far beyond the confines of this room. At one point, a particularly vocal dissenter, a tall, imposing figure with obsidian-black skin and piercing red eyes, turned his attention directly to Arlen. "And what of you, human?" he demanded, his voice dripping with disdain. "Do you truly believe your kind capable of change? Or are you simply a pawn in Commander Solara's game?" All eyes turned to Arlen, waiting for his response. He felt the pressure mounting, his pulse quickening as he stood to address the crowd. Drawing a steadying breath, he began, "I won't pretend to speak for all humans. We're flawed, messy, and sometimes reckless. But we're also resilient, resourceful, and willing to learn. If given the chance, I believe we can rise to meet the challenges ahead." The dissenter sneered. "Words are cheap, human. Actions prove worth." Before Arlen could retort, Solara stepped forward, placing herself between him and the challenger. "Then let actions speak," she declared, her voice ringing with authority. "Tomorrow we will conduct joint exercises, humans and my people working side by side. Let us demonstrate unity through effort, not rhetoric." The chamber erupted into murmurs of approval and dissent alike, but the proposal stood. As the meeting adjourned, Arlen caught Solara's eye, offering her a small, grateful nod. She returned it with a subtle smile, her confidence bolstering his resolve. The next morning, the joint exercises commenced. Humans and aliens worked together to solve simulated crises, build structures, and even engage in cooperative combat drills. At first, skepticism ran high on both sides, old prejudices bubbling beneath the surface. But as hours turned into days, barriers began to crumble. Bonds formed not just between individuals but between groups. Shared goals fostered understanding, and understanding bred trust. Through it all, Arlen remained at Solara's side, their partnership becoming a symbol of what was possible. Together, they inspired others to push past fear and doubt, to envision a future where differences weren't divisions but strengths. And as they stood shoulder to shoulder, facing challenges head-on, Arlen knew without a shadow of a doubt. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The decision to marry Solara didn't come easily for Arlen. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment choice, nor was it driven by obligation or pressure. Instead, it unfolded naturally, like the blooming of a desert flower after a rare rainstorm. Slowly, steadily, and with an undeniable sense of inevitability. The bond they had forged through shared struggles, mutual respect, and countless quiet moments of connection had grown into something deeper, something profound. When Solara finally asked him again, this time not as a commander seeking an ally but as a woman seeking a partner, Arlen felt no hesitation in his response. Yes, he said simply, meeting her gaze with unwavering certainty. Her violet eyes sparkled with joy, and for the first time, Arlen saw vulnerability in her expression. A glimpse of the emotions she usually kept so carefully guarded. Their wedding ceremony took place under the twin moons, surrounded by both humans and aliens who had come to witness this historic union. The event was unlike anything Arlen could have imagined. A blend of traditions from two vastly different worlds. Alien musicians played hauntingly beautiful melodies on instruments that seemed alive, their notes weaving through the air like threads of light. Human guests contributed songs and stories, laughter mingling with tears as old prejudices melted away in the warmth of celebration. Solara wore flowing robes adorned with bioluminescent patterns that shifted colors with every movement, while Arlen stood in his battle-worn armor, polished to a shine for the occasion. As they exchanged vows, spoken in both languages, translated imperfectly but filled with meaning, they sealed their bond with a gesture that transcended words. A simple touch of hands, palm to palm, symbolizing unity and trust. The cheers that erupted afterward were deafening, a cacophony of voices and sounds that echoed across the desert. For one night, the battlefield became a place of peace, a testament to what was possible when two sides chose understanding over conflict. Life after the wedding was a whirlwind of adjustments and discoveries. Arlen quickly learned that being married to an alien leader came with its own set of challenges. Solara's duties often required her attention at all hours, leaving little time for domestic tranquility. Yet, despite the demands of their roles, they found ways to carve out moments for each other. Quiet evenings spent stargazing, impromptu sparring matches that ended in laughter, and debates about everything from human history to alien philosophy. One day, during one of their walks along the edge of the encampment, Solara stopped abruptly, placing a hand on her abdomen. "Arlen," she said softly, her voice tinged with wonder, "I believe we are going to have children." Arlen blinked, taken aback. "Children? Are you sure?" She nodded, smiling faintly. "Our physiology is compatible, though such unions are rare. But yes, I am certain." For a moment, he just stared at her, his mind racing with a mix of excitement and terror. Children, with Solara, half-human, half-alien offspring who would straddle two worlds, carrying within them the hopes and dreams of both species. It was overwhelming, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. "Wow," he breathed, running a hand through his hair. "This changes, well, everything." "It does," Solara agreed, her expression softening. "But change is not always bad, Arlen. Together, we will navigate this new chapter." And navigate it they did. Over the next several months, Solara's pregnancy became a source of fascination and occasional amusement for those around them. Alien healers monitored her progress using technology far beyond anything Arlen had ever seen, while human medics marveled at the resilience of her body and the rapid development of the twins she carried. Yes, twins. Apparently, Solara's people often gave birth to multiple children, a fact that left Arlen reeling even further. As the due date approached, Arlen found himself oscillating between nervous energy and sheer awe. He read everything he could find about parenting, sought advice from anyone willing to offer it, and spent hours imagining what his future children might look like. Would they inherit Solara's shimmering skin and glowing eyes? Or would they take after him with his scruffy beard and stubborn streak? Finally, the day arrived. Solara went into labor under the watchful eyes of healers and doctors, her strength and determination shining through even in the most intense moments. Arlen stayed by her side, holding her hand and murmuring encouragement, feeling utterly useless yet profoundly grateful to be there. When the first cry broke the air, a sound that was somehow both alien and achingly human, Arlen felt tears prick his eyes. Moments later, a second cry joined the first, filling the room with life and hope. The healers presented the newborns to Solara, who cradled them gently, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and pure happiness. "They're perfect," she whispered, looking up at Arlen with tears streaming down her cheeks. He leaned over, gazing down at the tiny bundles in her arms. One baby had silvery blue skin and faintly glowing eyes, while the other bore hints of human features softened by alien elegance. Both were breathtakingly beautiful, their presence marking a new beginning for everyone involved. "What should we name them?" Arlen asked, his voice thick with emotion. Solara thought for a moment before replying. "Kaylina," she said, nodding toward the silver-skinned child. "And Torin," she added, glancing at the other. "Names that honor both our peoples." "Kaylina and Torin," Arlen repeated, testing the syllables on his tongue. "I like it." Raising Kaylina and Torin proved to be an adventure unlike any Arlen had experienced before. From the start, the twins exhibited traits that reflected their dual heritage. Kaylina inherited her mother's grace and affinity for bioluminescence, her skin glowing brighter whenever she was happy or excited. Torin, on the other hand, displayed a mischievous streak reminiscent of his father, often getting into trouble despite, or perhaps because of, his quick wit and cleverness. Parenting alongside Solara was both challenging and rewarding. They navigated sleepless nights, toddler tantrums, and the endless questions that came with raising curious, intelligent children. Yet, through it all, their partnership only grew stronger. Solara taught Arlen patience and empathy, while he introduced her to the chaotic beauty of human imperfection. Together, they created a home that blended the best of both worlds. As the years passed, Kaylina and Torin became symbols of unity, beloved by humans and aliens alike. Their presence inspired others to embrace diversity and work toward lasting peace. And though challenges remained, old grudges, lingering fears, and unforeseen obstacles, Arlen and Solara faced them together, their love and commitment serving as a beacon of hope for all who followed. In the end, it wasn't just about survival or duty. It was about building something greater than themselves, something that would endure long after they were gone. And as Arlen watched his children grow, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever the future held, they would face it side by side, as a family, as allies, and as pioneers of a brighter tomorrow.